In this video, I'm going to give you guys an introduction to solving equations, just what an equation is, and some key vocabulary you're going to need to know moving forward. If you haven't already, pause the video and see if you can solve the puzzle up at the top of the page. I did the first one for you. The reason why I know that this triangle key is a 1, because over here in the clues, it tells me that 2 times the triangle key is equal to 2. So this number right here has to be a 1 in order for this equation to be true. So just very briefly, how I got the rest of these answers. If you look at the second clue right here, it tells you that this oval, I guess, diamond plus the triangle is equal to the triangle plus 2. So we already figured out that the triangle was 1, so that means that this side would be 3. If this is a 1, 1 plus 2 is 3. Again, then I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what plus 1 over here is equal to 3, and that's how I figured out that that was 2. And you can kind of go through the rest of these using a similar method. Like if you look down at the bottom, 1 equals, the square minus 2. That one has to be 3 because 3 minus 2 equals 1, and that leaves you with 4 and the rectangle key. This symbol right here is a greater than symbol. We'll actually talk about those next week. So an equation, all of these clues right here are equations, and what we just did is we solved these equations essentially. An equation is a mathematical sentence that includes an equal sign to compare two expressions. So in this equation right here, this is an equation because I've got two mathematical expressions on either side. I've got an equal sign in the middle. And this is what we would call a true equation, meaning the expression has the same value as this expression on the other side. 8 plus 4 is in fact equal to 4 plus 4 plus 4. So equations have equal signs, whereas expressions, if we remember from a couple of weeks ago, are mathematical sentences that just contain numbers and letters and symbols. But the key thing about an equation is it's got an equal sign in it. It's comparing two expressions, or two terms, or just two things. So go ahead and pause the video. In this next box right here, I want to see if you can circle the equations and underline the expressions. So again, anything with an equal sign is an equation. Anything without an equal sign is probably just an expression. So there are 3 ways we can refer to an equation, or there are 3 different types of equations. There's true equations, false equations, and an open sentence. So I'm going to go through what each of those are with you right now. So a true equation is pretty much what it sounds like. It's an equation that's true, and you have an example over here. 12 times 2 equals 24. That is a true equation because 12 times 2 does in fact equal 24. The technical definition for you here, a true equation has true equation has equivalent expressions on each side of the equal sign. So for example, right here up in this box, here's another example of a true equation. 11 times 2 equals 22. Basically, a true equation is true. As opposed to a false equation, which you can probably guess what that is. Here's an example of a false equation right here. 12 plus 2 equals 24, which is false. It is not true. So a false equation just is the opposite of a true equation. It has expressions that are not equivalent on each side of the equal sign. Not equivalent. Okay. True equation, false equation. True equations are true. False equations are false. Now, an open sentence would be an equation like this: 12x equals 24. Another example would be like the equations up here, where 2 times, the diamond equals 2. Or right here, 3 is equal to 2z. Basically, an open sentence, it's an equation that includes one or more variables. An equation with one or more variables. And the reason why we call it an open sentence is because if you have an equation with a variable in it, we don't know whether it's true or false because we don't know what that variable is. This 12x equals 24, it could be true, it could be false. It all depends on what x is. I could put, remember x, the whole reason we're using a variable is because it's a placeholder for a number that we don't know. So I could put anything in here for x, and I could make this equation true or false depending on what I put in there. So those are the 3 types of equations you need to know. We need to know when an equation is true, when an equation is false, and when it's an open sentence. And again, open sentence kind of implies that it's open. It could be either false or true depending on what that variable is. So now the solution of an equation is the value of a variable that makes that equation true. So you're probably sitting here thinking, well, 12x equals 24, x has got to be 2. And that would be the solution of that equation. Since the value 2 makes the open sentence true, 2 is the solution of 12x equals 24. It's the value of the variable or variables that makes an equation true. Okay, we've got true equations, false equations. When you've got an open sentence, an equation with a variable in it, then probably what you're looking for is the solution, the value of that variable that you can put in there that makes that equation true. In the next video, we're going to talk about doing that, solving an equation, and it has to do with this idea of balancing an equation. When you solve an equation, your goal is to get the variable alone on one side of the equal sign, as well as to keep the equation balanced.